A very good morning to all the listeners. Today, I am going to speak on a topic which is all the more relevant for the international community. It is important not only for India, but it is equally important for the whole world. That is maintenance of international peace as well as security. So the topic on which I am going to harp upon is the importance of peace in the present day geopolitics. Now, you might be knowing, as students of law, in the 20th century itself, there were two world wars that has taken place. And the calamities which are perpetrated during the course of the world war have created so much of misery and so much of economic loss and so much of casualties during the course of war as well as thereafter. And during the course of the World War itself, members of the international community thought of reconstructing the economies which were destroyed because of the Second World War. The First World War had caused so much of destruction, and it was followed by the Second World War, which was declared in 1939. And after the declaration of the war, you know, at several points, at several stages, there were two blocks. One is what we call as the Allied victorious powers. Now, the Allied victorious powers at the time was led by the state of Soviet Russia, the state of United Kingdom, the state of France, and the state of United States. And these were the Allied victorious powers who constituted on the one side. And on the other side, there were dictatorial powers like the state of Italy, the state of Germany, and the state of Japan. They were called the Axis powers. The war continued, but then it caused, as I just mentioned to you, irreparable damages to humanity. And that is where, when the war came to an end, members of the international community wanted to have an institution. And this institution, prima facie, wanted to maintain international peace and security. And during the course of the discussion, maybe that is what we call as the international organization constituent debates. In these debates, maybe it may be at Moscow in 1943, it may be at Dumbarton Oaks in 1944, or it may be at Tehran and Yalta in 1945, or ultimately at San Francisco. All of the members were unanimous. The failure of the First World War did not destroy the conviction shared by many that only by way of an international organization could the system of collective security and international peace can be maintained and enforced. This is what a great writer by name, Professor D.W. Bavett, in one of his books, The Law of International Institution, points out. Members of the international community representing the states felt that only by way of bringing an international organization could the system of international peace and security be enforced. Now that is where, under the Charter of United Nations, they said in the preamble itself, twice in our generation, we suffered from the scourge of war. And it is the duty of the international community to promote peace as well as security. That way, what we call as the maintenance of international peace and security. Now, peace and security, when once it is secured, what is most important is there should be something known as the protection and promotion of human rights. Now, people should, when peace and security is attained, and when it is being enforced, when it is being understood properly by the international community, naturally they will think about the promotion and protection of human rights. Men and women should have equal rights. They should have equal protection. They should have equal opportunities. This is what the Charter of United Nations pointed out in its preamble. Having pointed out in Article 1, Paragraph 3 of the Charter of United Nations, they said, discrimination based on race, sex, religion is absolutely prohibited. Thereafterwards, they spoke of human rights. Then you may be knowing the Universal Declaration of Human Rights came in. And thereafterwards, the Covenants of International Human Rights in 1966, and thereafterwards, many conventions in the area of human rights came to be established. Now, today we will discuss one issue relating to peace and security. In spite of giving prime place for the maintenance of international peace and security, right from 1945 to the present day, there are violations of peace. And there were violations of peace leading to the violation of security between states. Now, the Security Council, as the prime organ, was appointed only for the purpose of maintaining international peace and security. And the Security Council, for this purpose, has been given extraordinary powers, that is to enforce peace and security. Where there is a threat to the peace, breach of peace, or an act of aggression in any part of the world, the Security Council will take up the matter, deliberate the matter, and what type of enforcement action has to be taken. If it can be resolved peacefully, then there is no problem at all. But then if it aggravates, then the Security Council is empowered to take necessary action in any part of the world. Now, that was the message that was conveyed under the Charter of United Nations. And we take up this in order to increase further the concept of peace and maintenance of security. The international community encouraged what we call as the regional peace missions. Promotion of international law and the promotion of the purpose of the Charter of United Nations has to take place at the regional level. And all the regional states should come into cooperation. And they should have an organization of their own. This is what was preached under Article 52 of the Charter of United Nations. Now, when I speak about this, remember, ultimately, you know all of them. In the European community, more than 30 states have come together today. And these 30 states have come together by a treaty. And ultimately, it encourages peace, restoration of peace, and thereafter enforcement of what we call as security measures, and then what we call as development. That is where EU, European Economic Community, came to be established. And the developments which have been reached by the European Economic Community, initially they had only 12 states. And today you have more than 30. And you might be knowing what development it has achieved. And it is because retention of peace. Because of the retention of peace, they could achieve progress, peace, and prosperity. Now, the European model naturally became a model for the other groups as well. The Latin American countries, about 30 or more of them came together. And in the entire Latin American region, they said prosperity is very much essential. But then prosperity cannot be achieved unless you have peace. And progress can be only achieved in a country and the countries of the region only through the establishment of peace, was the message. And the Latin American free trade area and the Latin American free trade treaties came into force. Similarly, in the African region, the Organization of African Unity, a treaty came to be established. And this treaty, remember, were signed by more than 63 African states. And this is being done only for the promotion, peace, and progress and prosperity of the countries. Simultaneously, you have what we call as the Southeast Asia Treaty Cooperation Treaty. And all the countries of Southeast Asia, at least 9 of them came together. And they wanted to have a union of their own. And this is being done first and foremost to have good understanding. Then should have, remember, adhere to peace. Naturally, it results in progress and prosperity for the peoples of those countries. And even in South Asia, we had SAARC. Why this is being established? Ultimately, the very purpose of establishing SAARC is to have good understanding of all the members of the SAARC region. And thereafterwards to enter into bilateral treaty for purpose of promotion of trade. Naturally, this will lead to economic development of these countries. Now, this is how it is being done. Then what has happened was during the course of the Second World War and after the establishment of the United Nations, most of the states which are in the East always felt that the democratic countries which are toward the West are a threat to what we call as peace. So with the result, two developments took place. And when I speak about the two important developments, one is what we call as the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. Now, North Atlantic Treaty Organization, when it came, it was a defense organization. Any of the countries which are the so-called communist countries or the leftist countries or the countries which believed in Marxian philosophy, if they try to violate the territorial independence and sovereignty of the Western Bloc, naturally the Western Bloc will unite and see that the aggressor is suppressed. At this juncture, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, when it came to be established, the states of what we call as the Eastern Europe did not keep quiet. They had a pact which is known as Warsaw. Now, the Warsaw Pact, Warsaw is in Poland. The Warsaw Pact is being supported by almost all the East European countries. When it came in, I can just tell you, it was not only Soviet Russia, Latvia, Lithuania, Poland, Czechoslovakia, Finland. How many of them you want? All of them became part and parcel of the Warsaw forces. Now, this is just like a warning, saying that if the democratic forces of the democratic countries try to impose their regime or interfere in the internal affairs of one European state, which are towards the east, naturally the entire, or what we call as the communist countries under the Warsaw will fight back to restore peace and to restore progress and to restore prosperity in the European countries. Now, all these developments were going on. Ultimately, even before the debate, even in the debates of the United Nations, they were only speaking for peace. Peace is very much essential and it has to be restored, come what may. In situations like this, what development has taken place? Now, when I speak about this, in the 1980s, there appeared a president, in Soviet secretary in the state of Soviet Russia. And this person was none but Gorbachev. Now, Gorbachev was the man who introduced what we call as perestroika and glasnost, freedom. Now, because of the principles of perestroika and glasnost, remember there was dismemberment of almost all the communist countries. And all the communist countries, remember, seceded from what we call as Warsaw. And most of them became independent. Now you think of today, Czechoslovakia is not part of what we call the Warsaw Pact. Think of Poland, it is not part of it. And many others, including Ukraine. Now, when many of the states split from the Warsaw Group and became independent, they were admitted, a few of them, perhaps a majority of them are admitted into the European group. The very purpose is to live in peace. The very purpose is if you live in peace, it will lead to progress and thereafter it will lead to prosperity. And there is no hidden agenda on this matter at all. Now, when Soviet Russia ultimately was losing power and it has lost its glory because of the severance of ties with the earlier allied powers with the State of the Union. What has happened was the state of Ukraine, again, another largest state after the state of Soviet Russia, came out of it. And it said we are part of what we call as want to become an independent nation. And this was not liked by the Soviet Union. It went to the extent of pointing out, see, you cannot just claim independence and you are ultimately an ally of the state of Soviet Union. This was the attitude, this persisted and it was going on, and correspondence, letters, disturbances, all these hostilities in one form or another were going on. Now, under the present day law, irrespective of all the Greek crisis, the Congo crisis, and the Spanish crisis, and other many issues which have taken place in any part of the world, there are three important developments which have taken place. And these three important developments have to be narrated here briefly. One issue happened to be an issue relating to the relationship between China as well as Taiwan. I just intend to briefly tell you, in China, which is called the People's Republic of China, there happened a revolution, there occurred a revolution. And this revolution, what we call the Civil War, was between the People's Republic of China and the Republic of China. And the Republic of China initially was fighting very strong. And when they were fighting strongly, naturally, remember the revolution, what we call the Civil War, took a greater height. And the fight ultimately made the Republic of China people and their leader to migrate to the state of Taiwan. And from spoken about this, I just intend to speak about the other crisis, that is between Russia and Ukraine. Now, when we speak about Russia and Ukraine, you might be knowing Soviet Russia, as always, used to speak about its hegemonic rule. And recently, although the state of Ukraine was an independent, in the month of February 2021, the president of the state of Ukraine went to the extent of pointing out Russia has prepared in all its might to attack the state of Ukraine. And this was supported by the president of the state of the United States. President of the state of the United States says, on all corners, the state of Ukraine we captured or captured the Russian forces have occupied the entire Ukraine from outside, from all the regions. Now, this was actually creating tension. And this tension which is being created made the state of Soviet Russia to spend the war, because when it declared the war in 2022, February. Now in 2021, you might be knowing, when it declared the war, what kind of calamities it has taken place. There were as many as 22,000 Indian students who were studying in different disciplines. All of them had to be arranged to get back to the state of India, to their own motherland. You think of the pressure that is being put on the state of India to save the lives of these people. And it had to negotiate with the state of Soviet Russia, it had to negotiate with the state of Ukraine, and with great difficulty, with all security, we brought all of them. This is a matter. Now, why all these things? Unnecessarily live in peace. Remember, that will lead to progress and prosperity. And afterwards, again in the month of December, January, it started invading. When it made the statement, especially in February, invasion started taking place. And you just remember the cost of lives, property, and other natural resources that are being spoiled. And endangered species are being eliminated once and once for all. Now, 14,000 soldiers from the state of Ukraine as well as the state of Russia have lost their lives. What is the cost? Where is the cost? Only thing is, you don't want the extension of NATO in the Eastern European sphere. An extension of NATO in Eastern Europe. Now, who has extended? Now, only the state of Ukraine has requested the President of the State of the United States to give a membership of NATO. And till today, it is not given a membership of NATO. The President of the State of Ukraine has requested for membership of the European Economic Community or the European organizations. Now, it was only considered, but they have not given membership till today. Now, because of the war, because of the costly expenses, both on soldiers, both on food, both on oil, the state of Soviet Russia, remember, stopped exporting gas to the European countries. When it started stopping it, now the state of India wanted to survive somehow by maintaining neutrality. And they went to the extent of asking us, don't buy from Russia. Then the foreign minister of the state of India had to reply to them, the oil which you are buying, remember, is very meager. And this is only for the survival of a developing country like India. We are neither with you nor with them. We are, remember, where policies are based on principle of good faith. Now, the foreign minister of the state of India, in the recent point, he just pointed out, we don't belong to any group. Now, ultimately, the state of India is bound to follow a policy which is beneficial to it. Always there will be permanent interest. And this permanent interest is for the benefit of the people and for the advantage of the country concerned. That is what we did. We neither vote for them. We just said, now peace is very much required and it has to be restored come what may. And the state of India, although the Americans were saying that it is supporting the state of Soviet Russia, voted against Russia in the Security Council for the first time. Now the other day, in one of the summits, the Prime Minister had a talk with the Russian president. And soon after the Security Council meeting was held, the state of India said, we want peace. This is not a time for war. Wherever it be throughout the globe, maybe in the south, maybe in the north, maybe in the west, maybe in the west, we need peace. And peace only can lead to prosperity. Now, one the other important development that has taken place happened to be in Mozambique. Now, in Mozambique, in the state of Mozambique, there are certain areas where you have gas reserves. And when Soviet Russia refused to give gas to the European states, especially the state of Germany, and these states have found Mozambique as one of the areas, states wherein they can explore and exploit gas. And most of the European investments now, to 90 billion, have gone to the state of Mozambique. Now, with the hope that they will be in a position to explore and exploit these gases and bring back and will be in a position to use it. Now, what has happened is, remember, Mozambique is a hub of terrorist activity. And many ICS activists are very, very active. And they are threatening to blow up some of the countries, especially in Europe. See what kind of consequence nobody understands. Now, ultimately, for the sake of survival, European countries have gone there. But then the problem created by the ICS, I'm telling the developments which have taken place just 2 days ago, are alarming. Where it is going to lead? And ultimately, what we say, with all said and done, the very purpose of the United Nations is to restore and maintain peace. And peace is very much essential. And without peace, we cannot achieve anything. For purpose of progress, for purpose of prosperity, for purpose of good living, what we want is peace. And let us believe in international peace and bow down to international peace everywhere. It is very much required and the topic of the day. Thank you.